humans get constantly exposed to different sounds. Some of them are more pleasing than others. It's due, in part, to the frequency at which those sounds get generated. The power of frequency can exist in how it affects human emotions and how it can be used to heal or harm people. The power of frequency often gets underestimated. Frequencies can powerfully impact human emotions, thoughts, and overall well-being. They are instrumental in healing or harming individuals, depending on the frequency they get exposed to. Sound frequencies are perhaps the most common type of frequency. Sound waves are vibrations that travel through the air, or any other medium, and cause ears to vibrate, creating sound. The pitch of a sound gets determined by how fast the waves are vibrating. The higher the pitch, the faster the waves will vibrate. Sound frequencies can be used to heal or harm people. Frequency, a scientific approach. The frequency of a repeated event is its number of instances per unit of time. It differs from angular frequency, and it sometimes implies temporal frequency for clarification. One event occurs every second, or 1 Hz when measuring frequency. The time elapsed between events is measured by the period, which is the inverse of the frequency. For instance, if the reading of a heartbeat is 120 times per minute, 2 Hz, the period, t, the space between beats, is half a second, i.e., 60 seconds divided by 120 beats. The frequency of vibratory and oscillatory phenomena, including audio signals, sound, mechanical vibrations, and light and radio waves, is an important criterion in science and engineering. Frequency measurement. Using a stroboscope is an antiquated technique for determining the frequency of spinning or vibrating objects. The frequency of this strong, repeatedly flashing light, strobe light, can be changed using a precise timing circuit. The rotating item is the target of the strobe light, which has its frequency moved up and down. The object completes a full cycle of oscillation and goes back to its original position between flashes of light when the frequency of the strobe and the rotating or vibrating object are equal. The effect is that the object appears immovable when lit by the strobe. The calibrated display on the stroboscope can then be utilized to decide the frequency. A frequency counter is frequently used to measure higher frequencies. This electronic device measures the frequency of a repeating electrical signal, and the result is shown in hertz on a digital display. It uses digital logic to count the number of cycles within a period set by a precise quartz time bess. The rotating item is the target of the strobe light, which has its frequency moved up and down. Frequencies concerning electromagnetic signals are often monitored indirectly using heterodyning beyond the range of frequency counters, frequency conversion. In a nonlinear mixing device, such as a diode, the unknown frequency gets blended with a reference signal of a known frequency close to the unknown frequency. The two frequencies distinguish where a heterodyne or beat signal is produced. A frequency counter can detect the heterodyne if the two signals have similar frequencies. Only the differential element between the unknown and the reference frequencies is measured by this procedure. Frequency examples. Light. The electromagnetic wave that makes up visible light is made up of pulsating magnetic and electrical fields that are flowing through space. The color of the wave depends on its frequency. Red light occurs at 400 Thz. Violet light occurs at 800 Thz, and all other colors of the visible spectrum fall between these two frequencies, 400 to 800 Thz. Infrared, IR, radiation is the name given to electromagnetic waves with frequencies lower than 400 Thz, which are not visible to the naked eye. The wave is known as a microwave at still lower frequencies and a radio wave at further lower frequencies. Similar to this, electromagnetic waves with frequencies higher than 81,014 Hz, commonly known as ultraviolet, UV, radiation, will similarly be invisible to the human eye. Gamma rays are even higher frequency waves than X-rays, which are also high-frequency rays. All of these waves, from radio waves with the lowest frequencies to gamma rays with the highest frequencies, are essentially the same and together referred to as electromagnetic radiation. The speed at which they all move through a vacuum, the speed of light, determines their wavelengths, which are inversely proportional to their frequencies. Sound. In the form of mechanical pressure and displacement waves, sound travels through the air or other media. The color and timbre of a sound are typically determined by its frequency ingredients. The characteristic of a sound that mostly affects its pitch is referred to as its frequency. The range of frequencies that the human ear can hear is limited. People can typically hear frequencies between 20 Hz and 20,000 Hz, while the high frequency threshold typically decreases with aging. The hearing ranges of other animals vary. Certain dog breeds, for instance, can detect vibrations as high as 60,000 Hz. The wavelength of sound waves, the distance within repetitions, is roughly inversely related to frequency in many mediums, including air, where the speed of sound is essentially unaffected by frequency. The power of sound frequency, can it create or destabilize? Sound constitutes the most significant motivator in the universe. It is the force that creates and destroys. It was the substance from which everything was formed. Even what is thought to as lifeless, non-living, or inert stuff like stones or clay have atoms and cells and vibrate at a particular frequency. Life's atoms and cells all vibrate because they have a specific frequency. Every element on the planet has color or rays, and even color vibrates. Even though the human senses can detect it, everything makes a sound. And that is only what one can hear or perceive. Extremely low-frequency sound, or infrasound, is audible only to animals and plants. Very high frequencies, like ultrasound, are audible to humans. Some individuals are capable of sensing vibrations coming from crystals and stones. Some people can physically feel colors by recognizing the various vibrational discharges that each ray emits. Dogs have a high-frequency pitch that people are unable to hear, whereas bats and dolphins use echolocation to guide them through their surroundings. Infrasound is used by elephants, rhinoceros, whales, and hippopotami, which they apply to communicate. The incredible power of sound has two aspects. It is capable of both creation and destruction. High-frequency sounds have the power to break material. The soprano's high C, for instance, can shatter glass. People have witnessed how loud sirens have been used to clear raucous gatherings. Sonic devices are used to ward off bugs and vermin. Seismographs use virtually low-frequency sound waves to identify and track earthquakes. Some studies and implementations go beyond simple detection to more proactive uses. Both in the high and low range, there are vibrations that people might not be able to hear that could make them uncomfortable, bring down structures, or even be able to cause earthquakes. As per studies, infrasound can be employed to confuse an opponent. One may also read about how military and law enforcement organizations have used sound and vibration to their advantage in emergencies. Both offensive and defensive tactics have been utilized with sound techniques. Sound benefits. No other field has actively researched and implemented the beneficial usage of sound than the fascinating field of sound medicine, a classical science that was widely used in ancient China and is now being used in cutting-edge, groundbreaking treatments in the 21st century. In medicine. In addition to monitoring chronic liver ailment and assessing potentially harmful atherosclerotic plaques, sound waves can also assist in the supply of medications to specific parts of the body. Acoustic energy and tumors located deep within the body can both be seen with ultrasound technology. Cancer can be treated by concentrating on such tumors. Today, people are aware of the sound technology that surgeons can use to pulverize kidney stones. The use of specific sounds to alter one's emotional and psychological states, along with enhancing one's brain function and learning capacity, has been the subject of much research and practical application. Additional fields are being merged, including psychology and neuroscience, to help persons with speech difficulties and hearing loss. In music. There is no denying that some musical genres can aid in learning. The parts of the brain involved in memory, motor function, timing, and language are stimulated by music. Researchers also pinpointed specific areas of cerebral activity related to emotional responses to music for the first time. According to neuroscience studies, listening to different types of music can activate different portions of the brain, stimulating underactive regions of the brain and causing the listener to experience happier moments. Music has the power to reprogram the brain and treat several conditions over time. There is unquestionably biology behind the music. Undoubtedly, the processing of music by the human brain has specific results. Both the biological and aesthetic components of music are essential to human life. Cymatic therapy. It is a way of science that shows how sound and matter vibrate and change in tandem. Relevant researchers experimented in the 1960s using sound to bring things to life by vibrating some matter, typically sand, and demonstrating how the sand changed into a specific pattern, shape, and elaborate design as a result. The particular designs were produced by distinct frequencies or sounds. The cornerstone of cymatic therapy is the idea that every human cell, organ, and tissue has an inherent resonance frequency that shifts in response to sickness. Cymatic therapists use a variety of sound wave and audible frequency combinations that, according to their theory, entrain defective parts to a positive vibratory state and assist in the process of natural healing. The power of frequency and resonance. Resonance is a process that happens when an object's oscillations become more intense due to the complementary vibrations of another object. Charged particles, mechanical systems, and objects frequently vibrate at a particular frequency. This frequency is also known as the natural frequency or the resonant frequency. Resonance occurs when a light or sound wave meets an object, which is already vibrating at a certain frequency, and if the frequency just so happens to equal the resonant frequency of the element. Resonance happens when an object's oscillations become more intense because the vibrations of another object match them. Without illustrations, resonance would be difficult to understand. One may thus examine resonance in more detail using a few examples. Musical instruments. Any musical instrument that is played by hitting, striking, strumming, drumming, or tweaking is put into vibration or oscillation at the natural frequency of the instrument. It is said to be in resonance. Every vibration frequency corresponds to a particular instrument defined by a distinctive standing wave pattern. These inherent frequencies of a musical instrument are commonly referred to as the instrument's harmonics. One may suppose a second connected item or tool oscillates or vibrates at that particular frequency. The first object can then be made to vibrate at a frequency that is greater than its inherent harmonic frequency. Resonance is the scientific term for this phenomenon, which occurs when an object vibrates or oscillates at a frequency that is higher than that of another object. Swing. When pushed, the swing goes both forward and backward. The motion of the swing can be developed by giving it a series of consistent pushes. The swing's motion has enhanced amplitude to reach higher since the man pushing the swing must time its movement with the swing's timing. A light push helps keep the swing's amplitude once it achieves its natural oscillation frequency due to resonance. Nevertheless, if the push is inconsistent, the swing won't even begin to vibrate. This out-of-sync action won't ever result in resonance, and the subsequent swing won't increase in height. Bridge. Since their rhythmic marching might generate significant vibrations at the bridge's natural frequency, groups of soldiers being marched on the bridge are frequently instructed to halt their steps. If the synchronized footfall resonates with the natural frequency of the bridge may fall apart. The Tacoma Bridge collapse is one of the dreaded instances where the frequency of the air and the frequency of the bridge coincided, ultimately causing the bridge to collapse. Resonance categories. Resonance comes in different categories, including the following. Mechanical. A mechanical system's propensity to respond with increased amplitude when its oscillations are occurring at the same frequency as its natural vibrational frequency, also known as its resonant frequency or resonance frequency, is known as mechanical resonance. Acoustic. An acoustic system would increase sound waves whose frequency meets one of its inherent vibrational frequencies through a process known as acoustic resonance. Since most acoustic devices use resonators, such as the length of a flute's tube, the body and strings of a violin, and the form of a drum membrane, acoustic resonance is a crucial factor for instrument builders. For hearing, acoustic resonance is also crucial. The power of frequency and spiritual well-being. People are aware that a successful wellness regimen includes both physical and mental components, such as obtaining enough rest and scheduling time for meditation. However, human spiritual health is one aspect of well-being that sometimes goes unnoticed. Several scholars have looked into the connection between spirituality and well-being, and they have concluded that there is one. Nevertheless, the precise science underlying this connection is frequently difficult to identify. The spiritual component of well-being was described as a sense of belonging, sense of life, and interaction with a transcendent power. The study has also demonstrated how living in a materialistic world that places a premium on individual achievement has cut people off from their innate desire to engage with life's larger perspective. In a postmodern culture that is primarily concerned with meeting the material requirements of people, it is worthwhile investing in the development of spirituality-related resources. Even though the study has been discussing structural resources, it's important to think about how individuals might supplement their own spiritual resources. But how does one get started? The fundamental idea behind vibrational frequency, which is considered to be a spiritual phenomenon, is that the human body consists of molecules that are continually vibrating and emitting electromagnetic energy waves. Vibrational frequency proponents contend that by altering the pace of these vibrational elements at the cellular level, one can enhance general well-being. Frequencies are all around the human community and come in many different forms. There are sound frequencies, light frequencies, electrical frequencies, and magnetic frequencies, among others. Each type of frequency has its unique properties and effects on the body and mind. Pleasant sounds, such as music or nature sounds, can help to soothe and relax people, while unpleasant sounds, such as shouting or loud machinery, can cause stress and anxiety. It is thought that some sound frequencies can even help cure certain diseases or disorders. For example, there is some evidence that ultrasound therapy may be effective in treating chronic pain. Frequency is a term that describes the levels of energy that people communicate and is a result of the ideas and emotions that inner consciousness generates. According to the theory behind the law of attraction, like attracts like in terms of the frequencies one emits. Humans attract things that are on the same frequency as what they discharge. This process demonstrates the relationship between emotions and frequency levels. Every individual possesses a distinctive vibrational set point. According to the theory, if one's vibration is high, he will attract positive things like success, love, abundance, and oneness. But, if the vibration is low, one will draw in negative emotions like resentment, estrangement, inadequacy, and self-doubt. So many people are working so hard on their bodies and thoughts while ignoring their vibrations. When dealing with frequency, it's critical to pay attention to the frequency that people's ideas, feelings, and behaviors emit. This concept serves as a helpful reminder to human beings of the significant role that emotions play in determining their frequency point. How is this information useful to the average individual who may not be a doctor, scientist, scholar, or lawmaker? One thing that should happen is that once they realize how powerful music is and how it matters to their life, they will have a greater appreciation for it. It is similar to how soon man must have realized when he discovered fire or how contemporary man must have felt when he discovered nuclear fission. It has two edges in the power to create or destroy. Beyond that, they ought to feel strong. Every person resides in a vibrating frequency mode or a bubble of sound. One may consider the effects the environment has on him. To avoid adopting a victim attitude, one must keep in mind that because he is in a vibrating universe, he is also in the center of a creative force. People act as effective vibrational and frequency transmission stations for the entire world. In addition, people have the power to create and remake their worlds for the better, both personally and globally. One can and do, as science has shown, emit strong frequencies that quantum mechanically affect change in the human world. One can do this by raising vibration, consciousness, thoughts, attitudes, feelings, beliefs, words, intentions, emotions, and actions. Besides, he can repeat the process by shifting the state of being to greater vibrating frequencies of compassion, pleasure, freedom, abundance, love, courage, peace, and hope. By doing this, individuals as spiritual scientists can contribute to the positive transformation of both themselves and the environment in which they live.